All right, so we'll call the meeting to order. Fire Station Building Committee. It's Thursday, July 24th. The time is 4:30. Roll call, please.
Joe Ulick,
Present.
Jeff Matthews,
Present.
Mike Julian,
Present.
John Sugden here, and Dave Langevin.
Present.
Mike Langevin absent.
He's excused.
Okay.
All right, I do not have the minutes from the June 30th meeting. We'll do those at the August meeting. So tonight we have a couple items on the agenda. The first is review and approval of action for development project to include, but not limited to, a potential project change order, and change orders. The first one is PDS project change order 1, Worcester and Mechanic Street test pits for the drainage pathways. So the background on this is we talked at the last meeting about the fact that a vault, a Verizon vault, was discovered in the middle of Worcester Street, and it basically essentially is right in the pathway of the site drainage system that would be cutting across Worcester Street and eventually getting over to Mechanic Street.
Joe, can I elaborate a little bit on that?
Absolutely.
It's not right in the path of. It's what it is adjacent, immediately adjacent to the existing 12-inch, which we are replacing with a 15-inch. And of course, the original documents show the manhole. They just call it a telephone manhole. Don't show any connections anywhere. And the contractor issued an RFI asking, is there a conflict with that and any cables that might be in the ground? They say that they opened it and saw there were some high cables and low cables. And so our engineer felt that the safest way to remove any doubt of where the cables are and if they're encased in concrete is to dig a test pit there, right? Adjacent to this vault. And also, there were two other potential conflicts between the wire, which we belatedly got a plan from Verizon showing that they do have a connection 800 feet down Worcester Street south, but also have one that goes up and around the corner onto Snow Street to the second pole, which we've talked about, and one that goes across Mechanic Street to a pole on that side street there. So it really creates a secondary potential conflict on Mechanic Street. And if we had two conflicts there, the alternate route, which would go directly across to the manhole that we're going to use, would create a third potential conflict north of the vault. So in order to correctly answer the RFI and dispel any doubt about where things are, that's why the engineer recommended doing the test bits. However, in talking about it over the past few days, we feel that the most likely scenario is that we'd only have to do 2 test bits, because if they find that there is the problem next to the vault, then we would keep the original route and we'd only have to check the one that's on Mechanic Street to make sure that there's no conflict there, where they cross again, at least from the way Verizon has drawn their cables with respect to our line. So we might, if those 2 are okay, we wouldn't even do the third one. So that's why I've reached out to the contractor to see if we can turn it into a maximum, the 23K, whatever it is, but time and materials not to exceed. Now, I have to break down because we simply got a number of $19,400 with 92 cents or something like that from the site with no breakdown except for a list of the things he's going to do. But he doesn't say how much rental equipment, how much, laborer's time, how much fill. He doesn't really quantify any of that. So um, it's really difficult to make let's say, a recommendation with no hesitation because it seems higher than we expected. Um, so we like the idea of if the committee could see fit to approve it, not to exceed that amount, but we justify the time and materials. And one other thing is since we're going on the hearsay of the contractor who said some cables come in high, some come in low. He didn't know, of course, if they're encased in concrete. That's an unknown at this point. And Verizon also doesn't know. They don't know what the state of the cables is. We have now reached out to Verizon to see if they'll come back and open up the vault and see where the cables are, exactly what their depth is, that we can actually measure it against our drainage line. What we feel is if we do that first, before asking them to dig any test pits, we can then look at, for instance, if the line, the 800-foot connection down Worcester Street, if that's up high, even if it's encased in concrete, I mean, if it's high enough, if it's 2 feet down like they normally put in the cables, we may not have a conflict. We maybe can determine that, at least not completely 100% determine it, but it becomes a good bet. And then we would only have to bet the potential cross, on Mechanic Street, which means maybe we don't have to dig one pit. However, without digging some and determining where exactly these cables are, how deep, whether they're encased, we really can't give good direction to the contractor about, yes, you can pass through here, or we need to modify something. So that's the situation. It's a little more not cut and dried as we perhaps originally thought. It's a lot more nuanced, and I think that by getting the Verizon out there, we can hedge our bets a little bit. So what I'm saying is, I think it makes sense to approve the change order as a not to exceed, and we collect time and materials from the contract.
Rick, what do you feel about that?
I think that, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Michael in the sense that moving forward with this time and material with a not to exceed would be the right approach to take. And up to this point, Verizon, although they are starting to be cooperative, hasn't been real cooperative. I think they originally were asked to open up that manhole and they wouldn't do it or something along those lines. But knowing where those lines are and if they're an interference before the work starts is certainly going to be less expensive doing some exploration than getting all of the equipment out there and performing the work and then have to stop. So I agree with exploring this in that way. And I like the idea of doing one test pit, maybe two, with hopefully not doing the third. We also, as Michael alluded to, before we enter into any agreement, we need prescribed rates, what they'd be charging for their manpower and equipment and so on and so forth. Theoretically, we may have done this exploration during design. If it was unknown where the cables were, if they really existed or not. But if we had done it during design, we would have run into the same costs. So we would have paid for it, 6 months ago or 2 years ago, or we would have paid for it now. But doing the work before the contractor actually starts the excavation and backfill and finding out exactly what we're dealing with is most important, because that'll avoid any costly delays and change orders.
Exactly.
Okay. So what we have before us at this point with this change order is a change order in the amount of $23,475.11. It's the Pierce change order, which is $21,341.01, and then there's a 10% overhead for PDS, which is the $23,475. Just to give you a quick background, it says for PCO is for performing 3 test pit per the email request of Castle Booze on 7/7. The work consists of saw cutting, demo, excavate 3 test pits, identify and record locations, elevations, backfill, and compact with appropriate materials, paving patches, police traffic controls, and signage. The costs associated with this work are indicated below, and the subcontractor backup is attached for verification and record. And it talks about 4 days of police details, saw cut 3 areas at 96 linear feet, remove asphalt 192 square feet, excavate 3 test holes, 3 each, identify and record elevation 1 LS. I don't know what that is.
Lump
Backfill,
sum.
lump sum, okay. Backfill 3 test holes, 12-inch process base, 14 ton, 2-inch asphalt top course, 2.4 ton, and 2.5 inches of binder course, 3 ton. So where this stands in the project, based on our meeting on Monday, is this is pretty much the highest priority of things that needs to be dealt with, and that could potentially hold up the flow of the project, because Pierce is ready to start doing this. They already started excavating and laying the sewer lines. That started yesterday, and they were working on that today. So if we're not able to move forward with this part of the project, then it kind of puts a standstill and delays on moving things forward. Honestly, yes, I am disappointed in the fact that, we're just kind of, coming upon this problem now. I'm more comfortable in the fact that Rick is kind of given us the description of whether this was identified 2 years ago, 6 months ago, or now, we still would have been paying to do this work no matter what. But at this point, we need to do this to be able to move forward. So I would entertain a motion under the advisement of both the Michael from the architect, as well as our OPM, to allow a not to exceed limit. Is there anything would the documents need to be redone, Rick? Or how would we move forward with that?
I think we need to Michael and I need to talk with PDS and tell them that we intend to move forward with this, at least 1 test pit, maybe 2, but we need what the rates are. We need to understand the rules of engagement here before we start quantifying time. Larry is on the job site. If you don't know Larry by now, he's very fastidious with this kind of stuff. We'll keep accurate times, and I think once Michael and I get comfortable with the rates, we should be in a position to give them the direction to proceed.
Okay.
I would point out that I did ask Scott to give us that breakdown with the rates. And
Right.
he said yesterday that he'd try and get back to me today, but I just got back from a funeral and I see no email from Scott today. So I don't know if he contacted you, Rick, but
No, there hasn't been any communication on that today, so
Okay.
we can double back with him and tell him that we're ready to move forward. But their whole, until they provide us appropriate information, they're kind of holding it up.
yeah, we also did hear back today from Verizon, the gentleman that I guess the chief was talking to, John Bowers,
Yep.
who told Nate, our civil engineer, to contact the field guy, gave him the contact information, and so Nate has sent out a contact to him to see when he could come and open it up for us. Is it true that it says in the document that I've seen from Horizon that the top of the manhole weighs 235 pounds? So I can understand why it's been difficult to open up.
No, I didn't see that document. But that's
I didn't
good,
either,
at least they're being responsive a little bit more at this point. So
Yes, they are, definitely.
So where this comes back to the committee is obviously in the last couple of meetings we put forward that Mike Julian and I would have the ability to act on items, up to $10,000 per item, and this one came right at 23,000 right away. So we needed to bring this back. So at this point, I feel it's necessary. If we do not act upon this, it is going to hold up the project and kind of put the site work at a standstill. So that is my recommendation, and I would entertain a motion to allow for a up to, say, $23,500, not to exceed $23,500 for this for these test pit work to be done once the owner project manager and the architect come to agreement with the contractor.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and a second. Jeff?
Yeah, just for clarification, so that 23.5 would cover the 3 pits. So there's a possibility that we may not have to use the whole 23.5, correct?
Correct.
That would certainly be our goal, yes.
Okay.
John?
No, it just wrecks me a little bit. Shouldn't Verizon be telling us where these things are and we have to pay to find out and tell them where they are? Is this something we can go back to Verizon and say, hey, this is what we had to spend on something you guys should have told us in the beginning? You know what I mean? It just sounds like we're spending money for Verizon.
But I think that if you, you're absolutely right. However, there has been some headway made with Horizon, and the goal is to get them down in that vault and have them give us this information before we start the test pits. So
Right.
they could provide information that says we're okay. We know the elevations and we can work around them, and then we don't do any test pits. So I think
Well,
Michael and his team.
It's probably likely, Rick, that we may have to do the one at least on Mechanic Street because that's so far away from the vault that it would be hard to predict where it is. But then again, I mean, if we come out of that meeting with them convinced that the big line, the long line, what looks like 4 conduits going down Worcester Street is high enough that we can get under it, then really it becomes a minor issue.
Right.
Okay.
The goal would be to get as much information out of Verizon before we start
Before we
doing
dig
any
anything.
drastic digging.
Yeah.
Okay.
All set, John?
Yep.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? All right, roll call, please.
Joe Hewlett,
Yes.
Jeff Matthews,
Yes.
Mike Julian,
Yes.
Dave Langevin,
Yes.
and John Shugler, yes. All in favor.
All right, motion passes
One
unanimously.
other thing, Joe,
Yep.
that document that you read to us, can you send that to me so I can put it in the minutes?
I can send it to you, but it should be it was in the documents that were attached to the appointment.
Okay.
But I'll send them to you anyway. All right, and then the second item is, since we were meeting anyway,
Deputy Chief,
Yes.
just a quick question. Rick, do you want me to send you the signed proposal back today, or do you want me to hold on to it?
we can, I think between Michael and I, we can, if you want to send it to us, that's great. But we're not going to give them an approval until we have the information we need, with regards to how they're going to charge.
Okay, all
Knowing
right,
that we have the approval of the committee, we can speak on behalf of that as well.
okay. All right,
Thank you.
I will take care of it. Okay, thank you.
All right, and then like I said, since we were meeting on this, there was another item that came up. Our friends at Ty and Bond have another amendment proposal. So the two items that I attached to this, the first one was the original soil management plan, which was for reference, and that was the $31,000 item that we approved some time ago, and I think at this point was well worth what we did with that. So now there is another proposal before us, and I'll try to lay this out, but Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, this is Ty and Bond feels that they have additional time into this because of Pierce's choice for where they wanted to truck the material to, the authorized site for the urban fill. There were two different sites that they were looking to utilize. One was in Connecticut and one was in Grafton. In the end, everything went to Grafton and nothing went to Connecticut. And Ty and Bond had to do extra work in the preparation of documents for the Connecticut site, because Connecticut DEP has different requirements for reporting, things like that. And that was what Pierce was trying to use as their primary site. And in the end, they trucked no material to there. So we have some concern of that, Pierce essentially created the necessity for this work, and then Ty and Bond is looking for us to compensate for them. So, Rick, if there's anything else you want to add to that.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you. So you've paraphrased that beautifully. A couple of things. Since the beginning, when Pierce had suggested or that they wanted to use the Connecticut facility, where it's the Becker facility, we've spent, I know how much time I've spent on it, and Ty and Bond has spent an exorbitant amount of time trying to jump through the hurdles for the soil classification so they could be acceptable to the Becker facility. The Becker facility was extremely stringent on what they would accept and wouldn't accept, and in how the testing was completed and how everything was reported. The investment of time was extensive, and I've made a PDS aware that we feel that we've already invested sufficient time on the soil management plan, and that this Becker facility was going to be a back charge to them and Pierce. The way that the soil management plan was designed, the Ty and Bond did all of the classifications based upon Massachusetts DEP standards, not Connecticut DEP standards, because they differ, and Connecticut is more stringent. And so, I feel very, very comfortable, and I've already made PDS aware of this, that there's going to be that they're going to be picking up some of this cost. There are some other areas that are wrapped up in this, but I would say the majority of the extra cost is based upon the time that Ty and Bond had to spend with the Becker facility licensed site professional. I attended several meetings as well, just trying to get to the point where the material could go there, or at least some of it. Along those lines, some additional sampling and testing was also required because of that. So, the total proposal, I believe, is $8,000 of time, and
$8,300.
8,300. There was some additional testing that was required that was not because of the Connecticut facility, but because some additional pesticides were identified up in the residential areas that required testing. To give you an example of how stringent things are these days, it could very well be that someone had just emptied out a bottle of weed killer on the site. But what it ended up requiring, because of the levels of chlorodyne in the soils, they had to remove a 25 by 25 area of soil. So the restrictions are becoming, the criteria is becoming very restrictive. So there was additional testing that was required for that was above and beyond anybody's scope. So I had asked Ty and Bond to break this down, which they have provided us a breakdown, and we're working with PDS on the back charge component of that. Some of it will be all of it's an additional service to Ty and Bond. Some of it would be the responsibility of the town, but I feel that the majority of it is going to be the responsibility of PDS and Pierce. I just don't have the exact figures yet. Another component to this is that we're getting our final figures in. We've handled just under 10,000 tons of material to get this site clean. And it's a major, major accomplishment, I think. And I know very well that when we bid this project the first time, the site numbers were exorbitant because the materials had not been identified and classified to the detail that we did for the second bidding. So I know there was an investment that was made by the town with Ty and Bond and Castle Booze, but it's very clear in my head that we could have saved upwards of $1 million here by controlling this material the right way. Some of the site numbers that I'm seeing right now, I think that the Pierce number is around $1 million for the disposal. And some of the figures I was hearing in the first bid, one contract had carried $2 million for the disposal. So I think it's hard to swallow spending, giving, I know we've had a couple of change orders at Ty and Bond, but the end of the day is that the town's title to the land stays true and clean. And I think we've saved a ton of money.
Okay. So with us, if we were to move forward with this amendment, obviously we're going to initially foot the bill for this, and then it would be back charged, to some degree, it will be back charged to the extent possible through PDS and Pierce.
That's correct. And there's another thing I forgot to mention, Mr. Chairman. In the second round of bidding, what was created between Ty and Bond, the geotechnical engineer, and Castle Booze was we established pay line limits within the contract documents for the materials. And so there's a horizontal line, I should say a vertical line in the site. When the contractor in their bid documents were to dig down to that certain line, and that line varied depending upon our test pits in elevation. That's called the pay line limit. If the contractor has to dig below the pay line limit, then he gets a change order based upon unit prices in their bid. If they don't have to go down to the pay line limit and they can stop their excavation above the pay line limit, then that's a credit back to the owner based upon the unit prices. So we're analyzing that now, and between Larry on site, our Larry, and the geotechnical engineer who has been there for the entire excavation period, we feel very strongly that there's going to be a credit coming back to the owner for the material that did not have to go down to the pay line limit. In some cases, we had to go below it, but the majority of the time we were above it. So we're working on a credit for that as well.
Good to hear. And I know, speaking with the site contractor, the owner of the company, Hal Pierce, He said that the material that we had on site to build the station on was like gold. He
Yeah.
said that we could not have found better material to build on.
Yeah, it compacts beautifully. The gradations are wonderful. They've had to make some material. In other words, use some existing material, add some stone, or do some sieve to reduce some of the bigger cobbles. But this site is as sound as can be. Now that we've gotten rid of the contaminated matter, and we're down to our building base, it's looking beautiful. And don't forget, 10,000 tons of material have been taken out of here, which is a lot of material.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, the highest number that we were talking about was up to 14,000, correct? When we initially were
Yeah, I
looking at
think
the
at
soil
that point,
management.
I think it was estimated 14,000 cubic yards.
Okay.
So, and we will do the ton per cubic yard analysis for you. We're probably going to be in that same, a little bit less than that, because they didn't have to go down to the pay line limit. But yeah, we were during estimating, it was about 14,000 cubic yards.
Okay. All right. So with that information for this addition to the soil management, this is documented as amendment number 3, additional soil management consulting services in the amount of $8,300. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Dave Langevin.
I'll second it.
Second, Jeff Matthew. Is there any discussion on the motion? Jeff?
Yeah, just a quick question to you, Rick. I know you might not have the answer to this, but with the monies that we're spending now, I know it's well worth it. But if we do get that credit that you're talking about, do you think that would help offset or maybe completely offset what we're dealing with today?
Absolutely. I'm looking at about I'm looking for PDS to pick up about 50% of this number, the 83. It may be a little bit less by the time we finish hammering it out, but and then I know the soils, the credit on the soils will certainly cover the rest of that, if not much more.
Thank you.
Again, we're waiting for all the calculations. Larry's been like a hawk watching this. All of the elevations have been shot, but we just need to get all of the analysis done.
Thank you.
Dave?
Yeah, just question. So, which I agree, they've been doing so much site work and stuff. All the fill that they have on site now, if they're not going to utilize it, where does that go? I mean, far as money, do we get credit back for that? Because they're going to resell it, or I'm just learning on this, so.
Yeah, that material on site is slated for reuse on site. So we have 3 different components. We have loam, that's one stockpile, and that will be used for all the grass areas. We have sand that basically they brought in their sieve machine and they sorted the material, so they have a pile of sand, and the sand is used for piping backfill bedding. And then they have structural material, and that structural material will be used for the bringing the site up to the under slab elevation during the backfill operation. So right now our elevations are probably, what you're seeing on site are probably a foot below, maybe a little bit greater than our finished grade. So they've calculated exactly what they need. And they've taken off everything else, and the material you see there now would be reused on site.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Joe Ulick,
Yes.
Jeff Matthews,
Yes.
Mike Julian,
Yes.
Dave Langevin,
Yes.
John Chigda, yes. All in favor.
All right, motion passes. Just to give you, a quick update at this point, basically all of the footings have been laid and poured for the exterior of the foundation. There's a few spots that aren't done yet, where they have to move machinery in and out of the inner part of the site, and then where the training tower, that will be done separately. And then there's still footings that have to go in for retaining walls and stuff at later dates, but the majority of the footings are in, and they started putting up forms for the foundations in the last day or so as well. So moving forward, discussion on the next meeting date. I think we tentatively had August 4th. Rick, does that still sound like what we need to go with?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and do we want to do the 3:30 time with that as well?
If that's okay with everyone else, that would be fine. Or I can do the 4:30. It's really up to you guys. I'm there, so.
Anybody have an objection to August 4th at 3:30? Seeing none, that's what we'll go with. And looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for your
Aye.
time.